9.8, 9.9, and the ever-elusive 10.0. Today, we're going to talk about manufacturing defects. Now, one would assume that because books come directly from the printer or the manufacturer, that the books are going to be perfect. That's not necessarily always the case. So today, we're going to discuss the differences between a 9.8, a 9.9, and a 10.0, and pull back that curtain and show you CGC's grading process. Now, there are times where we get bulk submissions sent to CGC, either directly from the publisher or the printer themselves. You see they come in these handy outer boxes, and inside here is another inner shipping box. And if I open this up, this particular case has about 160 raw copies, all pre-packed, directly case fresh from the printer. Now that we have the books safely removed from the inside packaging, I'm prepping them by putting them into piles. You'll notice a backboard underneath here so they can safely be moved across the table. And one of the first things that I'm going to be looking for is, with them all lined up in the same direction, I'm going to be looking at the spine corners. Looking for that color breaking spot. As you can see, as you move your eye up and down along all the corners here, you can see the ones that do break color with the white showing versus the ones that do not and have the solid, sharp corner of a spine edge that we're looking for books that might grade out higher above a 9.8. What I've done here is a preliminary stacking process where I've gone through and I've picked the ones that don't have color breaking marks on the top and bottom spines. And then this pile right here would be that one pile. And then these piles over here would be the ones that show a little bit of white, and those would knock it out of the 9.9, 10.0 range, but not necessarily the 9.8 range. So once I have these narrowed down, I will save the higher grade ones for after, once we establish manufacturing defects and any other consistencies as far as defects that go along with all the books on this particular print run. As I'm going through these stacks, what I'm looking for is sharp corners and a tight spine. Now, in this particular book, all these books are made beautifully. They're on a nice heavy cardstock cover, and they hold up really well in shipping. So what I'm looking at here is a straight spine, zero defects on it. And then you look at the corners here, the corners up here by the Boom logo, and then the bottom, very nice and sharp. So my eye is going around all four corners. No surface wear whatsoever. The only spot that I can see is that tiny little spine right there. We have a little bit of white showing, but not necessarily a book that cannot still achieve a 9.9. Even though these cases come directly from the printer, there is a possibility that they can be damaged in the cases they come in. So in this particular book, as I'm looking for those sharp corners, if you notice on the bottom spine there, you can see a small impact crunch right down there by Black Ranger's foot. Now, if this particular book was going through a 9.8 pre-screen, that would be considered a handling defect that would take it out of the 9.8 and make it a reject. It would still be attainable in the 9.6 range, but unfortunately, this particular book in a 9.8 pre-screen would be a reject. And as you can see, the impact crunch carries through the book and goes through to the back cover as well. And I noticed too, as we were going through, I'll put this one over here in the separate pile, that one of the other books in the stack showed a little bit of white on the top spine here. Looks like it bumped around in the box on the top edge. So we got the top spine here and then the top right edge. You can see a little bit of white showing through. This is pretty minimal, something that would still be attainable in a 9.8 range, depending on the rest of the book. We'll flip it over and see if those impact crunches do affect on the back cover as well. And as you can see, this top corner goes through the entire book. So this would be going into the reject pile as well with the other one. This would take it out of the 9.8 range and put it in a 9.6. All right, so now I have these piles separated out by grade as of now, based on the corners and the top and bottom spine showing white and impact bends anywhere on the corners. This pile right here I have in front of me, along with these two piles to my right, are books that are still within a 9.8 contention versus this side over here on my left, which are the really nice looking books that have sharp corners, no color breaks. These are books that we're gonna look at a little bit closer once we go through these. So now I'm going to focus on the back covers and look across the surface and roll my eye across the light and look at the surface for any type of scuffs, indents, bends, creases. And when you're looking at the same book, it is a little easier. You can go a lot faster because you're looking at the same thing over and over and over again. So it does become a little repetitious, but it makes it easier. And my eye just goes in a circle and go around the book. And then as I go through piles, I will find things that you'll see me move off to my right. And those are books that I'm taking out of 9.8 because they have a defect on them that would take them out of that grade range. Okay, now that we've completed the back cover, we're gonna flip these over and do it again, but to the front. Okay, now that I've gone through this stack, I'm gonna do the same thing to 2 other stacks from here. Now, if you notice too, as I've been doing these, I've been bracing all these piles with a board. It's one of the safety things that the less we handle the books, the better, and it's safer on the spine edges, especially books like this where it's a cover, the cover stock is a little harder and glossier than others, so the spine stress will show up and it looks pretty bad. And we don't wanna be the ones that damage the books, so we wanna make sure that the books are always in the best possible condition. And as you can see, these boards that I have on these books on top of are really sturdy. These are those thicker backboards that you can buy at comic shops. I like to use these as kind of placeholders to go underneath and balance the books out. As you can tell by these piles, these are all 9/8. This was a pretty successful pre-screen so far. As I was going through the 9/8, the rejects that I pulled, you notice that some of them have these impact crunches. Some of these defects are only visible depending on how you hold the book and at what angle you're looking at it. So these crunches right here that I rejected as we were looking in the front are things that are really only visible when you're looking straight on the book. If it was off to the side, yeah, there's a little bit of white showing, but not necessarily the crunch itself will be visible. So that's why it's important for me when I look at these books to break them down step by step and look at different areas as I go. Once I get all the 9/8, what I like to do is I like to safely stack these, and I do that by staggering them in counts of 10, front to back. So as you notice, this pile is a lot cleaner and a lot safer than the one to its side, so they don't tip over and fall. So I stagger them 10 by 10, which makes it easier at the end of the day too for me to count how many, as I can just count based on the side showing. And there you go. 3 messy piles condensed into 2 nicely neat piles. So now that I have the 9/8 separated, what I'm gonna do is go back to that previous pile, the one that I pulled that had the nicer looking spines that had very little to no white showing at all. What we're gonna do about these is we're gonna go over these a little more of a fine-tooth comb than we did the other ones because we know that these could possibly be higher contenders. So we need to look and make sure and scrutinize these books and make sure every single corner is sharp, there's no surface discrepancies, there's no nothing. And as I go through these, I will do the same thing I did before by separating a pile based on what I see. So as I was going through this stack and using the light to my advantage, what I'm looking for are divots or shadows caused by bends, creases, indents, crunches. Now I'll show you these 3 right here I took out of that pile. As I was going through them, I noticed some defects here on the back cover. On these books, you can see the slight little dark shadows, these 2 on the bottom, particularly on the spine. These are slight little impacts, which won't take it out of 9/8, but unfortunately won't put it in the 9/9 or 10/0 category. And then this book on top here has a slight impact crunch on the top edge of the book itself. You can see in the light, it casts a slight shadow on the gloss of the book. Now that I have all of the 9/9 and higher contenders pulled out, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back again to this pile and scrutinize this and look for the sharpest corners and the parts of the spine, the top and bottom spine, where there's no color breakage, no color loss anywhere, no bends, no spine stress, if there's one that does exist. If there is one, then we possibly could have a 10.0. Well, I think we got one. I have them separated into 3 stacks. It's easier for me to show you the transition of the defects on the spine. We'll start with the 9/8 in particular. And if you look, what we have here are not only white showing where there's wear on the spine corners, but there's also bindery tears, which is a very common production flaw with books. And it's still acceptable in the 9/8 grade. And as we go to the 9/9 pile, you will notice fewer bindery tears and less white showing and more color on these spine corners. And if we transition once again down to the 10.0, you'll notice that there is none of that. Now that we're done with this first phase, these books are going to be entered into our system and given a numerical grade based on what they were given in the preliminary pre-screen, and then go to encapsulation after that, and then go to quality control, and can't wait to see what the end product looks like. And they're back. And as you can see, I'm holding a 9.9 and a 10.0 in our crystal clear case with our beautiful blue universal label. Now, I know I originally said I went over 160 copies total, and actually I went through 400 total from the printer. And out of those 400, I pulled over 300 9/8s, 79 9s, and only 7 10.0s. Now, as you can see with the 9/8s, the top and bottom spine are a little rounded, show a little bit of white and a little bit of wear. Sometimes along the spine edge, you can also notice some color flecking where there'll be bits of the ink that will not be showing, and there'll be the white where the absence of ink is. The 9/9s, on the other hand, you'll notice very minor color showing, and the corners will always be sharp. If you look up and down along the spine edge, it's fully in color. There's no color breaks, no spine stress, none of it. In a 10.0, you'll notice every corner is sharp, the top and bottom spine is perfect, comes to a point with 0 color breakage in any area along the spine. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed taking a trip through manufacturing defects and discovering the differences between a 9.8, a 9.9, and a 10.0. If you liked what you saw, please leave a comment below. If you have ideas what you'd like to see in the future, please follow us at CGC Comics and drop us a line. My name is Shawn Caffrey, and thank you again.